You know, we finished our last discussion on cadences, and I just didn't feel fully, resolved.
You felt sort of transient about that, eh?
I did. I felt like I had come to a stopping place, but that there was more to be said.
Oh.
I think that more to be said was to give some more musical examples than just the things over in the right-hand side of the page. So, let's play through some and we'll talk through it as we go. If you've got a hymnal, take a look at Joyful, Joyful, We Adore Thee.
Semicolon. Period.
Let's talk about those two phrases. Daniel, what happened musically here?
Well, basically what you have is just a 1 to 5.
If we were playing it on harmonica, remember we did, we went breathe out, breathe in.
Yeah.
So that certainly wasn't finished. We wanted to have a second phrase.
Definitely. And there it was.
Here's our second phrase.
5 to 1.
It's a 5/7 chord.
That was much better.
So that could be the end right there.
It could be, but it just seemed too short.
That was an
Just
awfully short story.
A and B, you had introduction and the ending.
So something about poetry tells us, rule of 3, I need to go somewhere
need a
else for a little
climax.
while.
To 5 again.
Now this time it was a...
We had a secondary dominant, which is a 5 of 5.
Which one's a 5? Now don't worry about that.
that'll
Sometimes
be
I fool
more
myself
complex
by
harmony.
saying, I don't have to know that yet. And then I sort of sneak it into my brain by learning it, because I didn't have to learn it yet. But you don't have to know that yet. But what that was is, if you look at the music, there's a C sharp in it. C sharp does not belong in the key of G.
No, but if you're in the key of D, it does belong.
It's that leading tone. Never underestimate the power of the leading tone. It's that C sharp. So it's part of the 5 of 5. In any case, that was a half cadence.
Yeah.
Ironically, it was a perfect authentic cadence in the key of the dominant.
Because it ended on the 5 chord.
We still call it a half cadence because it finished on the dominant. So in any case, that's two different ways of doing a half cadence. And then we have the last phrase, which is the same as the second one.
Period.
Yeah. Only this time, because it was the fourth phrase instead of the second phrase, it felt more finished.
Yes.
Didn't it?
Yes.
Now, how would we really want to make it feel finished?
Tag the old Amen perfect plagal PP, if you will, which I just did.
Yes. So quite often, though we finished with a perfect authentic cadence, we were just running along so much and we sang 4 stanzas and it still doesn't quite feel finished. So how do we make it feel finished? They call this a plagal cadence, 4 to 1. It's not the active resolution that a 5 to 1
Certainly
is,
not.
but it has that sort of finality to it, which we know very well.
We're all about that.
Let's try another hymn. Shall we illustrate it yet?
Certainly.
Yeah. Come thou fount of every blessing. Listen. Guess what punctuation was there?
Well, it was like a period, but it wasn't done.
I put a semicolon in there.
Yeah.
Because they used to write a lot of compound sentences back in the day. So they put a semicolon.
Which was a Thursday.
These days, now this is not coincidental, by the way. These days we don't put punctuation in our worship songs.
We don't.
We don't have cadences in our worship songs.
Odd? No. Expected? Yes.
Anyway, so there was that semi-cadence, or I mean the semicolon, and what kind of cadence was that?
Well, Perfect authentic cadence because it ended on a 1.
Perfect authentic cadence. But it was the end of the first phrase, and something didn't feel finished about it.
Not at all.
So sometimes a perfect authentic cadence, as we mentioned just before, isn't still terminal. It's transient. The second phrase is the same as the first. A little bit louder.
A little bit worse. Same thing.
Period this time.
Yeah.
There we go. And yet, the rule of 3 tells us 2 lines.
Not enough.
When A, something has to go B. I need to go a different direction.
That's a perfect authentic of sorts.
It sure isn't finished.
Yeah.
Now we're
That's
done.
finished. That's finished. Oh, now we're really finished. Now we're not even kidding. The whole thing is done.
Yeah. So, what we have seen is, with both Joyful, Joyful, We Adore Thee and Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing, they both have a set of transient cadences, some of which are half cadences, some of which are perfect authentic cadences on the dominant and therefore a half cadence, some of which are even perfect authentic cadences on the 1, and yet they're transient cadences. Go figure. Or stay there and figure. You can figure anywhere you like.
You can figure at home, you can figure at school, you can figure while you're scatting like a scatting fool.
You can figure. Because you're that smart.
Way to go, you.
Here's a third hymn that really illustrates yet another option for these half cadences. How Great Thou Art. Guess what? Semicolon right there.
Semicolon. Imperfect authentic.
Yeah, what was this? It was a 5/7 going to a 1. That's a 1 chord.
But the melody didn't end on tonic, so it's not quite finished.
Melody finished on a 3rd, so that definitely didn't feel like we were done, did it? Second phrase.
Same thing.
Same thing. That's now, if the verse was all that was written and there was no refrain, that would be a very unsatisfying musical piece, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, you could just keep doing that for stanza after stanza after stanza, and you would never feel like you ever got to a period. So we need a refrain. We've got to have this refrain. Another imperfect authentic cadence right there.
Same thing.
Here it comes. Here we are.
Seven to 1 with the melody this time, ending on tonic.
There's a perfect authentic cadence, and we finally feel like we've reached the end of that hymn.
The end of the rainbow, if you will.
Yes. Do you get it? Now that we've seen 3 hymns, say, I see. Those cadences are really, really important.
Yeah.
The rest of the stuff goes by, but those cadences are like the punctuation marks that let us know how the thing works.
Yeah.
I hope you're understanding this very well.
Be very, very cautious when dealing with the perfect authentic cadence.
Now, if we were dealing with a contemporary worship song,
Would be hunting rabbits.
we would have a much harder time identifying the cadences. But at least in these hymns, it's pretty clear. Let's move on to something more, interesting. Shall we?
That does it. I'm moving on.
It's been too long on this one subject. I think it's time.